All right, joining us now, general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, has had an interesting offseason so far, and we're going to try to make it a little more interesting over the next few minutes. He's Chris Ballard. Chris, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Glad you had me.
I was thinking the other day about everything that you've been through in recent years. I mean, think about this. You got young franchise quarterback, front to middle portion of his prime, exercises his privilege, and I'm a firm supporter. If you don't want to play, don't play. It takes a lot, and if you're at the point where you don't want to do it, don't do it. But then that sets off this, and we've talked about it before, just this chain of events, and you're still 6 years later trying to settle down the quarterback position. Do you ever think, what did I do? Who did I piss off? What have I done to deserve this outcome?
Well, no, not by any stretch. I mean, one perspective I'll never, I'm grateful for what I get to do. 25 years, plus when I started my career coaching, so you're over 30 years of being able to play football. I want you to think about that.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't ever lose perspective and grateful for what I get to do. And then when I look at the quarterback position, one, it kind of defines how hard it is to find those guys. And two, I'll never let us organizationally make an excuse for not, getting that solved right now. We're going to continue to press, continue to knock every door we can till we find that guy. When we drafted Anthony, we're hopeful. We're still hopeful that maybe, he can hit his ceiling. We brought in Daniel Jones, who's a young player that we think can challenge him. But there's never a point of why me. No, we just move forward. That's what we do.
You mentioned Daniel Jones, and you've not been bashful about the fact that it's an open competition. Who makes the call?
Look, at the end of the day, Shane and the staff with, Mr. Irsay and I will definitely have on how they performed. I mean, competition is a good thing. That's a good thing, Mike, at any position. I mean, because it's a quarterback, it's going to get scrutiny to the 10th degree. All right, but I think at any position, competition is good. It brings out the best. It helps people grow. We've talked about, and I've talked about this with our locals earlier today, about the struggle of young quarterbacks and the quarterback carousel that's going on in the league right now. Struggle's a good thing. Failure's a good thing. Now you've got to use it in the right way, and I think that both with Anthony and Daniel, they both had their struggles, and they've both had some success. But now to watch them compete, I think that's going to be a pretty cool thing to watch.
What would you say to someone looking at this from the outside who believes this is basically a last-ditch effort to get Anthony Richardson to step up and be what you need him to be? That this is a test to get him to rise to that occasion?
I don't know if it's as much a test. And I guess it's a matter of semantics. But the competition word, I think, is good for anybody. I do. And you never know when the light's going to come on for a player. You don't, and especially at the quarterback position. And are we hopeful it comes on, for Anthony right now? Absolutely. Are we hopeful it comes on for, Daniel Jones right now? Absolutely. That'd be the utopia. If all of a sudden both of them are competing at a high level, it's coming on. But, I'm not Nostradamus. I can't tell the future. So we'll just go day by day and let them compete and see what comes out of it.
What was it that specifically attracted you to Daniel Jones as the alternative potentially, or at least, the other entrant in the competition?
One, we liked him coming out. All right, that's one thing. Two, 2022, we played him up in New York, and, man, he was outstanding. And really offensively, what they were doing with him is very similar to what we were doing with Anthony. So we thought the skill set to fit in the offense was beneficial to both players, because now we don't have to be switching offensively to what each one of them do. So that was really one of the big reasons we targeted, Daniel.
It's funny how many teams either don't realize that or ignore it, where you've got two different playbooks because you've got two different quarterbacks, and the impact that has on the other players on offense.
That's right.
And so you'll have basically whoever it is, and if one guy gets injured or one guy gets benched, whatever the case may be, your offense isn't going to change.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, we've done it. Shane, it's one of the things I love about Shane, our offensive staff. Like, we did it with Gardner. We did it with Joe Flacco. And then when we got into this offseason, it was kind of like, okay, let's match the quarterback to what we want to do from a skill standpoint offensively.
What is it specifically that you think needs to click for Anthony Richardson?
I think it's just a consistency. I think it's like with any young player, Mike, like just game after game, day after day, the consistency of playing the position, which is hard. Like, it's hard on any young quarterback in this league. You're seeing it. You see it. I mean, you see what Baker went through, from Cleveland to Carolina to Rams to Tampa. Darnold, he went to, the Jets to Carolina to San Fran to Minnesota, now to Seattle. Like, it's when the light comes on in terms of consistency, the sooner the better. But every player's journey is different. Every developmental timeline's different. It's the scrutiny of what the position means to a team. So the faster it can happen, the better it is for everybody. But, we don't have a crystal ball with that.
And that scrutiny, I think, has gotten worse and worse over time. Michael Hawley made the point on Friday, and I'd never thought of this. Whatever happened to the young quarterback, mid-round pick, develops quietly, and then at the appropriate time becomes the starter, like a Tony Romo? Like, there's no one like that anymore.
I got great respect for, like, this goes back to Ron Wolf. I learned this from John Dorsey. I didn't pay attention to it, but I learned it. And then what Ted Thompson, to Goody, to what they've done in Green Bay. And they started preparing 3 or 4 years in advance for what it was going to look like. And you give them a lot of credit. Then they're very patient with that young man's development. And even Tony Romo, if you look back, I mean, there was some patience with his development. And so, it's a case by case. You're not going to see it very often now because of the scrutiny and how high guys have to go. Guys are getting taken higher than they would have in the past just because of the position and the need for the position that you've got to have it. So I don't know if that timeline, I mean, of course, everything's cyclical. And so you never know. Give San Francisco credit. They saw, like, I think, Mike, one of the hard things to do, especially when you take a guy high, and then you happen to take a guy later at some point, or even as an undrafted free agent, but to really recognize what you have. Like they did it with Purdy. They saw it. And when his last pick, all right, when he entered the building, they acknowledged, okay, this guy's got real talent. We need to make sure we get the most out of it.
Why do you think he lasted as long as he did?
That's a really good question, because remember, we kind of liked him, but we didn't have him high per se. I don't know. It's the hardest. He had a hell of a college career. 4-year starter. And what makes it, Tom Manning, who's our tight end coach, was his offensive coordinator. And I remember when Tom was at Iowa State, he loved him. I remember us talking about him with Tom. I don't know. I can't give an answer for that. He wouldn't have been, last pick of the draft if I had that answer.
Yeah. I thought of you right after the Combine when the noise started with Shedeur Sanders. Because you had the passionate comments a couple of years ago about all the crap. And it was great because it needed to be said. And,
yeah.
Right, for whatever reason, somebody's trying to knock Shedeur Sanders, whether it's because they want him to slide down the board so they can draft him.
Yeah.
But there's so much scrutiny. And is he going to be a first-round pick? Well, yes, for the reason you just said. Somebody's going to want to take the chance and make the bet on a franchise quarterback. So they're going to take him in the first round. Do you still get upset when you see that? What do? You just accept that that's the way it is and wait for opportunities to vent? If you'd like to vent right now, feel free to do so.
And
you can use whatever language you would like to use.
No, I'm doing better because Matt Connie cringes every time I break out with the F word. Here's what I'm going to say, especially about Shedeur. Look, he was raised in a family that understands what it takes to play and the scrutiny that comes along with it. And we're beating a guy up that went to Jackson State and won. We're beating a guy up that went to Colorado and won and elevated a program. I mean, agendas and opinions. I'm fine with opinions. Just put your name on the opinion. I'm okay with it if you put your name on it. But the silence and the anonymous sources is what I struggle with, which is, kind of the world we live in today. But put your name on it. I mean,
but especially with opinions about players, when the people providing the opinions might have an agenda along the lines of, maybe I can get him to slide far enough so we can draft him. That's what happens.
I think sometimes that gets you're overrating the intelligence of all of us.
There's going to be some votes tomorrow. I want to get your thoughts on the big issues. The tush push is the one that everybody's got an opinion about. Will the Colts be in favor of the Packers' proposal or against it?
Well, I mean, right now we would be against it. I see it as just they're really good at what they do, and nobody can stop it unless I can see. And I'm not going to say we won't change our mind between now and when we vote, because we've still got another meeting on it. But as long as it's not a play where a player's health and safety is at stake, okay, where there's real injury, and I've not seen enough injury data to say, okay, this play really has a chance to get a player hurt. And at this point, we haven't. And I don't know if we have a large enough, data size to be able to make that determination.
But we can look at it and say there's something different about this play. But it's similar to goal line and quarterback sneak. I mean, there are other plays like that where everybody digs in and something's coming. I don't know that the push element changes it. It's still a short yardage play.
That's
right. Not going to change.
That's right. In 2020, when we had Phillip Rivers as our quarterback, Jacoby Brissett would come in a game and everybody knew it. And he was outstanding as a quarterback sneak, on the quarterback sneak. He was a big man. We had a really good front. I mean, he was excellent at it. So, give Philly, give Nick, give that coaching staff. Shane was a part of it when they started it. Credit for coming up with it and using it and being damn good at it. I don't understand. They're good at it. Here's what it is.
But it's not easy to duplicate, or everybody would be good at it. It shortens the sticks from 1st and 10 to 1st and 8, basically.
No, they're outstanding. I mean, when they when they get the 3rd and 2, their whole playbook's still open because they know good and well I can do it there. I can wait till 4th down and do it. So no, it's an advantage for Philly. But unless there's a medical health and safety reason of why we shouldn't do it, then I don't see us voting, against it.
And I get the sense that folks are using that as a way to circumvent. Now, to your point from earlier, maybe some aren't smart enough to make the connection. I don't know. I'll defer to you on that.
Well,
but I feel like
we do have smart people in making those decisions.
I feel like that's cover for the health and safety is cover for. We just don't like that they've perfected it, and if we can't beat them, we won't join them. We'll just tell them you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, we got a meeting on that this afternoon. It'll be interesting to hear the data of what they've come up with.
The potential elimination of the guaranteed home game for a division champion. Where do you stand on that? That was the Lions' proposal.
I don't agree with it. I think the division. Look, I'm a traditionalist in a lot of ways, and I do think the division, winning the division title, still matters. And I think everything is cyclical for a team. Like the first year that. I mean, look, I was in Chicago when we played Seattle. Whenever they were, I want to say 8-8. Did they finish 8-8 that year? 7-9. They won a division. They won their first round. That we played them in Chicago that year, but they won. That was the Marshawn Lynch.
The beast mode, beastquake. They beat the Saints.
Exactly. So there's still some really special moments in history that have come out of it, and currently, I'm in favor of division champions still playing at home.
Last one, and then I'll let you go. What was your reaction when you saw that Frank Reich is going to Stanford to coach this year?
Big smile. Look, I love Andrew Luck and I love Frank Reich, and I think Frank is couldn't be a better guy to bridge it for Andrew right now in Stanford. I give Andrew credit for thinking of it. I didn't even think of it till I saw the news. I was like, oh, that's pretty smart. Doesn't surprise me. I mean, Andrew is a bright guy when it comes to football. and he will figure it out and make Stanford successful. And I think getting Frank to help him kind of bridge it right now was a really, gives him instant credibility, gives him a guy that has been through some difficult situations and knows how to navigate it, and has the utmost integrity that you would want out of that position.
Well, Chris, thanks as always for some of your time, and here's to finding an answer.
Awesome.
Long-term answer
Thank
at
you.
the quarterback position.
Appreciate it.
Chris Ballard, GM of the Indianapolis Colts. We'll be back with plenty more from Palm Beach.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.